How important is the Bible to you?
Absolutely everything.
Oh.
Right.
Why?
Because it's about God's plan for the whole universe of wanting everybody to come in a relationship with Him and to have life everlasting, a wonderful life everlasting. Some people say, I think, it's going to be kind of boring there. Well, no, when you're around Jesus, it's not boring. I was born in Wichita, Kansas. Here's the place where I was born.
A baby came to us. It's a girl. She was born on January 23rd, 1943, on a Saturday at 7:17. Had her at Wesley Hospital. We named her Joanne Lucille Eden. My doctor was Mr. Bruce Meeker, and the nurse was Edith Mueller. The first time I saw her, she was crying, and she was very red, long black hair. She had long feet and fingers. Joanne got her first little tooth at the age of 5 months and 20 days. She got her upper 2 teeth at 6 months and 3 weeks old.
Congratulations and a word to the new mom and pop. Don't give it spankings and don't feed it pickles. Don't wrap it up in a blanket that tickles. Don't mind its cooing, don't mind its chuckles. Don't mind the tooth that it cuts on your knuckles. Don't let it wake you when midnight is falling. Keep right on sleeping in spite of its bawling. Don't be so stingy, but tell that dear baby that somebody loves it. And I don't mean maybe. Isn't that cute? And that was during the war, and my father went down to work in the Boeing Aircraft Company.
They were building the mightiest aircraft in history. They were building the Boeing-designed B-29 Super Fortress.
My mom and him were down there, and he thought, well, that would pay good, and maybe he wouldn't even have to go in the Army.
The most important trip of all was when Joanne was 3 months and 3 weeks old. We made a 1,300-mile trip to see Grandma and Grandpa Bolkin, May 16th, 1943. She was a perfect child, never caused any trouble. She slept all night in the car just as she does in her little bed. While in Iowa, she was baptized and given the name Joanne Lucille. Uncle Leo and Aunt Esther were her sponsors. They presented her with a gold bracelet as a sponsor gift.
Then he got the papers so that he was inducted into the Army and to report to Fort Snelling. And so that was probably in about 1944. He came up on a bus from Iowa with other inductees, and Mom and I came up in the car because we had relatives up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and so she was going to see him off from here. And it so happened, I guess he played football in high school and had injured his knee. And when they saw that, well, you can't go. We can't take you in. And so it was a very happy time that we visited relatives, and then he got to come back home to Iowa. And then he became a mail caller. He had to buy his own truck and go to the farm. As I got older, I'd go out with him on the truck. And they started with the big cream cans. I could twirl a can on the cement. And he also worked at the Ford garage as a mechanic for a few hours in the afternoon. And my mom was a super sales lady in a ladies' ready-to-wear shop. And so she was with that company until she was 70. She was from the farm, and they had 5 kids. And when she was born, my mom's relative was there helping. She named her Henrietta Wilhelmina Volkich, but my mom was a big talker, and she loved having fun. And so they ended up calling her Hank. And she was always a well-dressed, sharp-looking gal, but her name was Hank. And she thought that was just fun, because when they'd say, these are our friends Hank and Johnny, and they say, who's Johnny and who's Hank? And she was the life of the party. She had, they had a lot of friends, and they loved playing cards.
Can you remember any stories about her at parties? Or were you at any parties that you remember what your mom did?
They'd say, repeat the Gettysburg Address to us. She'd get up on a chair and say 80 and 7 years or 70 years, and I don't know.
70 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether the nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure.
What would you think some things that your parents did really well that you continued on?
They were very honest. They loved people. So it was a good life. Close friends in the neighborhood. We always played outside. Played games. It was just very good. We were in a town of about 3,000, and Iowa is known for a lot of corn and crops like that. So my grandpa and grandma lived 3 miles out of town. I loved farms, and I also had an uncle, and they were on a farm, and Janice, one of his kids, was about my age, and so I would go to the farm there. So I had many fun, different things on the farm, from fishing and going over the, climbing the fence over into the Myers area to go to Peely's Pond. I sold worms because there were a lot of fishermen around there. I sold worms for 25 cents a dozen, and now they're $2.50 to $3 a dozen. So I should really get in it again. But anyway, the neighbor boy then decided he was going to sell worms, and so we really had a worm war, because sometimes he'd put it up to 35 cents, and then I would too, and then I'd go down and so forth. So there's always competition when you're selling. Well, I was looking for something to do. Grandma was up at the house, and so I just poking around again, and so the chickens were out, and this haughty rooster was there, and so I thought, I saw this can, and I thought, I'm gonna shake him up a bit, and so I would throw it down by his feet, and he would go up in the air, and I'd laugh and laugh and laugh. And after the third time, I looked into the eyes, and I thought, his eyes are different. He's coming after me. And he did. That rooster was right behind me, going as fast as he could, and he had long legs. And I was screaming and hollering as I was going. And I got onto the porch, and then he stopped. I never did that again. I had had it. And I knew if he would have gotten a hold of me, he would have gotten his talents right in me. He was hot.
Do you have like a favorite memory of, maybe you and Cheryl when you were young?
Well, she was a lot younger than me. And so when I was in high school, she was in junior high. And so our friends were different and so forth. We really became the best of friends when we were older. Yeah, and I love her. So we're very close. I saw him over at the University of Minnesota. About every Friday night we got together with other students, but one night they had a Hawaiian luau, and he sat across the table from me. We talked for the first time and found one another's names. He asked me every week, pretty much, for a date, and he would call once a week. We began to know one another. That was a nice time, and but nothing romantic. No, he was not a pushy person, and very sweet man. Nice manners, and very positive person. And then I went to Europe in the Mediterranean with a charter flight, university charter flight that dropped us off in London, and 2.5 months later they picked us up.
In Europe, they live in easy harmony with the old and the new.
There was a gal on the plane, and she said, I'm going to go to Paris to study French more, and you're going to Germany to study German. And but why don't we just go around a little bit before we do that? And so I said, okay. So we went to France, because when we went to other places, they say, did you go to Bordeaux? We said, yeah, and we all had red little bumps on us in the morning, and one girl's eye was shut. What was that? He said those were bed bugs in Bordeaux, and they get everybody when they come through. and then she'd say, Spain is so close, let's go there.
The crowd is quick to recognize daring that is real, true skill in the spectacle.
And so we went there, and then she said, Gibraltar is so close, and we can go into Morocco. Would you want to do that? I said, okay. And when we came off the ship, it was a whole different life there. Long robes on the men and the women and all that. And it was like, wow, it was just a few miles across from Europe, but this is very different. It was very interesting in Morocco. I continued going to different hostels and so forth, meeting people along the way. So I went down towards the desert, and that's when I thought, I have got to go to Egypt. I've been studying about Egypt, and I have to go. And then I got on a ship going to, it was a freighter and a passenger ship. And it was $50. It was going to Italy and drop us off there. When I got up to the ship off the gangplank there, they said, we don't have a place for you below, and so you will have to add some extra money to this. And I said, oh, no, I don't. someone sold this to me, and so, well, they said, okay. So I was with the well-to-do people that had gorgeous dinners and everything, and I was in a stateroom with this lovely older lady. It was luxury. I was in Naples and Rome for about 2 weeks.
The dome of St. Peter's rises upwards like a heavenly choir. From the topmost pinnacle, the centuries that are Rome spread out in everlasting significance.
So we'd been eating a lot of bread and cheese with the students that were coming in the hostels. And they'd always tell you where the cheapest place was to eat. And we walked every place that we could. And then I got a ship going to Egypt. Met a couple girls there. I traveled with a short little gal, maybe in her 30s, from France. And she couldn't speak much English, and I just knew a little French. And she was short, and she had a real deep voice. She sounded like a man, and I was tall and skinny. And so she and I were together in Egypt for a while, and we were quite a pair. The Arabs were wondering.
The valley of the Nile bespeaks the dawn of recorded time, built indeed for the ages, some of the most ancient relics in the world.
My love of foreign places, I never was really interested in going to Norway or Sweden. That's why I went like to Egypt and these other places. I just thought, oh, this is really exciting. And nobody I know has seen any of these things. So it was very extremely interesting to me. So that was my big trip. And when I got home, Ernst Wojahn proposed to me. I guess he missed me over the summer. And I got home in September, and then we went to Iowa to see my parents. So I went down with all of these artifacts and stuff from the trip, and my fiance. But, I thought he was so sweet, so kind. We had the same faith together. Yes, we were even in love in all this.
What did that feel like?
Love. My mom and dad loved him. It was very easy, and then we got married June. I was going to pay for all the things in my wedding, and so I had saved up. I bought the gown. I bought one thing of flowers, and then my friend from Reykjavik, Iceland, that I met in college, she was standing up with me, and then Ern had a friend with me, and then Ern had a friend and a couple brothers in it, and it was out South Shore, White Bear Lake, because that's where my aunt and uncle lived. So she had the reception at her house, her lovely place. It was a very nice wedding, and so I did the flowers for the tables. And in those days, what you had it in the church upstairs, and then you went downstairs, and the ladies' aid helped put the things together. Often it was some rolls and some meat in them, besides chicken salads, and of course Lutheran cello. And and you would buy the cake from the bakery. But no, that's what everybody did. They did something to the car. Yes, they did something to the car. Usually it was, attaching cans. And but this was a rainy day, so probably our car didn't get the full works of paper and stuff on it, streamers or whatever, because it kind of continued to drip. We went to a motel in the city after going to Auntie's house with all the relatives there, and Grandma Elsasser from California had flown in for that, so that was very special because she didn't come back from California usually. And then we went to Hawaii because Ern was at Northwest Airlines. And so, yeah, we had a lovely place in Hawaii. Well, it got more exciting because we were married 22 months and we had 3 kids. Mark and Scott took 15 diapers each a day, and Amy had 10. I had 90 diapers, but I had an easy spin washer. It had a big tub that you put your clothes in, and then it had a little spinner attached. And I even had a dryer. And so that was a big help. Auntie Romel and Melvin, her husband, sent up one of their girls each for 3 weeks to help out. I had a great husband. When he came home from work, and he was on 3 different shifts, but he would start helping with diapers and whatever the minute he came in the door. And that was just fine with him, because Amy was 1 year and 8 days old when the twins were born. And the twins ate every 2.5 hours. We never went to the circus because we had one. Amy did not seem to be angry with you 2 coming in. She couldn't talk. She was 1 year old and 8 days. And so it was like, who knows what she was thinking, but she didn't beat you guys up. She could have been very mad because you really took over her wonderful spot. She was the butterfly of the year. Oh, she was fun. I mean, her dad would take her out to see all the dogs in the neighborhood. Amy wanted to be a nurse, but when Daniel fell off his bike and it was bloody, and she popped him in the wagon to take him home. She was about ready to throw up, and so she gave up thinking of being a nurse. That was not going to work. Scott was clingy. Yeah, no, He was more emotional. Mark was kind of easygoing, not getting upset about things. I was kind of a tomboy growing up. I would play with you kids, and wrestling on the floor with you and stuff like that.
Did you like being a mother?
Yes, I did, but it really was trying to get enough sleep for a while there, and no, it was extremely busy. As a young mother up 3 houses from us, my freezer broke down one day, and I said, what am I gonna do? It's a weekend, and I don't want my food to get too warm. And the next door neighbor lady said, call Ellen. And so I called Ellen. I said, Ellen, I got to put some food in your freezer if it's possible. And she said, sure. But she'd tell me about this personal relationship with Jesus. And I thought, gee, this is interesting. And she became a Christian as a young woman coming from Sweden to Canada and then down in the United States. She just went down in health, and she went to all the doctors that she could, and they said, we don't know what's wrong with you. And they gave her different medicines, and they said, you're just going to have to go home. We have nothing to give you. And anyway, after a bit, her friend said, I know of a man. He loves God and he prays for people, and sometimes people are healed. Would you want him to come over? And she said, I might as well, because I can't work and I can't do things. And so he came over, and he started talking with her. She was in bed, and he said to her, why did you want me to come? And she says, well, she said, you know, I can't get well, and there's nothing more they can do for me. And so I need you to pray for me. And he said, well, he said, first I want to tell you about the Lord Jesus and how he died for your sins and so forth. And so he did. And she said, that is wonderful. And he said, would you like to have Jesus into your heart? And she said, I would. So she prayed, and it was wonderful for her. And he said, now I'll pray that you be healed. And so he prayed for her to be healed. Nothing happened just at that time. And he said goodbye to her. But after he left, she just felt, I am feeling better, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to see if I'm much stronger. And she did. She was healed. So that's the one that I had to talk to me about a personal relationship. And so there were many other things that had happened to me. A huge one was when the twins were about 2 and Amy was 3. I wasn't feeling good. I said, gee, I've gained 20 pounds and I don't know why. And so I said, I never gained weight. So I didn't eat that much, 20 pounds. And anyway, I had to work the next day. I called up my doctor, a doctor at our place, but he was working on cancer things, and he came down. And in 5 minutes, he said, have you had something wrong with your with your liver? And I said, yeah, I had hepatitis I got from this guy who coughed in my face for a while when I was working as an x-ray tech. And he checked my lungs and he said, you've got water in your lungs and your valve is slushing, you've got heart failure. I had just had a little Bible with me and I didn't know where to look something up at. But I came into my bed and there were a couple of older ladies in the room, but I said, Lord, I'm in big trouble. And I don't know when I'm going to get home again. And I don't know when it's going to get better. And so I really need you to help. And I opened the Bible, and at the top of it, it said, be anxious for nothing. I thought, well, this must be it. And I just opened it up. I didn't look anyplace else. Be anxious for nothing. And the message there was, not a sparrow falls to the ground. And I do that. No. And you're much more precious than a squirrel. Than a squirrel. than a sparrow. But put the kingdom of God first and his righteousness, and his righteousness, and all things will be added unto you. You cannot lengthen your life one day by worrying about it. And it just burned into me. And I thought, there it is. He knows where I'm at. This is the message. I don't know if it was like 10 years later when I had to go into surgery to take a grapefruit, not a grapefruit, but an orange cyst out on my ovary. The internist says, we really have to check you over because what you had, we have to be sure your heart really is fine. So you come out of the anesthesia. And he said, I don't get it. I said, what don't you get? And he said, anybody who had what you had doesn't get away scot-free. There's always damage. And your heart's perfect. And I said, he did it.
Do you believe in life after death?
Well, definitely. Because he says, I am the life, the way, and the truth. And to be able to go with Jesus is going to be peace everlasting. And so, no. When someone said to me after Papa died, and this person said they were sad to hear that he had died because so many people had loved him. And I said, I'm happy that he's in heaven. He's well. And she said, a lot of good that'll do you. And I said, that it does everything for me. I don't have to worry about him. He's much better off than any of us. And he is very happy and he's safe. And so the promises in the Bible will all be kept. It's a wonderful place to go to. It's something to look forward to.
Sounds like you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's the best place in the universe. No trouble. Isn't that great? My name is Joan Wojahn, I married Ernst Wojahn, who came over on the boat.
There was no boat. The only boat you took went across the lake.